Welcome, friends. My name is Avinash Gorakshakar, and I welcome all of you once again to another interesting episode of Konexio HighFlyers. Friends, as all of you are aware, this is a very interesting series where we talk to emerging companies from emerging sectors, and we make it a point to talk to the promoters and the top managements of such companies. And in this process, we get a lot of valuable information about the company's business model, their growth journey, their business prospects, and in this process, investors benefit by knowing a little more about such companies before they take their investment call. And today, friends, we have got a very interesting company which operates in the defense space. The company's name is called C2C Advanced Systems Limited, and we have the privilege of having the top management team. We have Mr. Murtuza Ali Somar, who is the executive director and chief financial officer. Murtuza ji, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time with us today. We also
Thank you.
have Commander LLS Narendra, who is the Chief Operations Officer of the company. Narendra ji, it's a pleasure for me also to welcome you today in this small interaction. And I'm quite sure that we'll be able to get to know much more about the company in a much better way from both of you.
Thank you very much.
So, first question which I would like to ask, which is very elementary, is that if you could tell us, what is the business model of our company, what is the positioning of our company in the domestic market, and if at all, if you could tell us, about the business journey, how did this business start? Is it a first generation effort, or whether it is something which was started by an earlier set of promoters, then taken over by you? So if you could give us some idea about the business journey, that would also help us understand your company better.
Okay, to start with, let me answer about the company itself. C2C Advanced Systems is a very, very domain-focused company, a technology company. And in the last 6-7 years, we have built a number of products in the defense domain. And we are in the space of command and control systems for the military, which is basically in the domain of the situational awareness and war fighting. And we started this from a very humble beginning, and we have been able to capture a lot of markets in the world. Now, coming to the specific question of which all defense forces you operate with, we operate with all the three arms of the defense force. So that is what we specifically do in our offerings to the defense forces.
Okay. So basically, just to get it right, Narendra ji, you operate for all the divisions, that is the Army, the Navy, as well as the Air Force. All the three divisions, the company. Okay.
Correct.
And just to get a little more understanding about the company's product category, if you could just tell us broadly that which segments do you largely cater? Is it largely to the marine sector, to the coastal guard, or maybe to the army or to the air force? How is the product bouquet developed by the company till now? And what has been the focus of the company on which particular segment, whether it is all the three, or typically within these three, you have some priorities from your side?
Okay, let me answer this question by saying, first of all, we are just not focused only on one arm of the defense forces. When I say a combat management system is one of our specific products, combat management system is a generic term, whereas it is applicable to all the three forces. But specifically, if I come down to the naval domain, we make products like combat management systems, integrated bridge systems, warship electronic chart display systems, integrated platform management systems, and also we make remote optical surveillance systems which are used both in Army and Air Force as well. So across all platforms, across all three services, we do offer our products. Okay. And the most complex products are in the naval domain.
Right. Understood. I think very nicely articulated. Now, another question which I would like to ask you is that a lot of R&D must have gone behind these products in product development. Typically, sir, from a very layman kind of understanding, how much time does it take for the company to actually produce a prototype, get it approved from the customer, and then start the commercialization? What is the normal timeline, which occurs, for people to understand how intricate this process is?
Okay. First of all, let me tell you the entry barrier in the products that we make is very large. In the sense, no software company can today say, "Ki, I will just enter into the combat management systems domain." You have to understand that we have a domain expertise. We have an experience, cumulative experience of over 200 years working in this domain. So, first, there is a specific requirement of a domain expertise. And the second is experience of having developed such systems prior to this. So, when I say we have 200 years of experience in this domain, we have people who have worked in this domain over a large number of years. So it's a very, very high entry barrier domain.
Okay, so understood. I think very nice to hear that. Narendraji, just wanted to understand what could be the total workforce when you say 200 hours of experience in this industry. It definitely means a lot. How many people do we employ? And secondly, typically, how do you identify such people? Like, is it your own relationship strengths, or do you have a process where you get the right person for the right job and then nurture his abilities in the company? If you could share your thoughts.
Okay. As I said, I just correct you. It is 200 years of experience.
Oh,
So
sorry.
cumulative 200 years of experience. What I'm saying is you don't get people in the open market doing this work right away on the day one. We have a system and process in place in our company where when we choose a particular engineer or a person to work in the company, we train him for over a year and a half before he is given a small module to work upon. So there is a large amount of training that is imparted. Whereas the experienced people who have worked in this domain earlier actually mentor these people to grow to the level that the company expects. And thereafter, we look after the people so that they do not move away from our system,
Okay.
because it's a huge loss to us otherwise.
Exactly. No, I think you're absolutely right. Retaining such talented people and making them a part of the company is always a challenging process. Sir, now tell me one thing in the overall domestic market. I was just seeing your prospectus and your presentation. I think the opportunity to grow is very significant, very large. How do you see, the company's growth over the next, say, 3 to 4 years? Without giving numbers, if you could just share your thoughts that how big is the runway for us to grow, like, in terms of the naval opportunity, air force opportunity. You are into combat, management system, so you have a huge kind of runway to grow. But in terms of the opportunity size, today we are a small company, but in the next 3 to 4 years, what kind of growth do you envisage? Again, without giving numbers, if you could just share your thoughts on the growth and the kind of growth we can grow, in the next 3 4 years.
I'll
Uh,
step in over here and
yeah,
I'll answer
yeah,
that.
yeah.
See, in the last 2 years, we've grown a lot. We are almost going at 200% CAGR. And I hope to emulate that going over the next 3 years as well. There's tremendous opportunity. It depends on how well we can gear ourselves up and come to that level. But I don't see any problem why we shouldn't be able to grow at 200% CAGR next 3 years.
Okay. Understood. Murtuza ji, just one question. Are we talking about both the domestic market as well as the export market for our products, or is it only the domestic market?
No, primarily right now, if you look at our mix, we've mostly been an export oriented company. We're breaking it into the domestic system as well. Right now, we're going through bigger companies and not supplying directly to the Navy. We got our first order from the Navy last year, which was a small order, which we did about 3.5 crores. And going forward, there are a lot of products that we've developed. As we said, we're a product-based company, and these products are very exclusive, and very few people in the world make them. We might be one of the 5 or 6 companies in the world who make a CMS, and there are other products like that as well. So the gestation periods are very long. There's a lot of money required. Cycles are very long because they're very precise things, and lives depend on these products. Like for example, a CMS testing, and by the time we deliver it, it takes more than a year. Testing, there are 3 rounds of testing. I'll explain that. First is at our end, then the client says you have to do it at their end. Third part of testing is from a neutral agency. Once all these 3 tests are passed successfully, only then do they accept the product. So there's a lot of investment required, and in the domestic market, the challenge is that we need a lot of money. That's also precisely one of the reasons why we went in for an IPO. We can't only survive on the export market. We made good inroads in the export markets. We supplied to USA, to Malaysia. We're looking at Africa and other European countries as well going forward, since now we have a qualified CMS. But our focus is now going to be on the domestic market, because our primary sales, most of our, about 80% of our sales have been international, export oriented. I think the next 2-3 years are going to be very significant with the Indian Navy. Now that we had our first order, and we have 2-3 very important products that we've got acceptance from the Navy, we'll be billing quite a bit over there, and something in the Air Force and Army as well going forward.
Understood. I think very nicely articulated, Murtuzaji. Murtuzaji, now tell me one thing. On the pricing side, are these orders purely tender driven? Like, there is a tender and then the tender opens, and obviously based on your pricing, you get the orders, or is it largely relationship driven?
Okay, so I'll tell you what it is. These are very niche products which very few people can develop. I mean, the CMS no one in India has. So it's like a monopolistic kind of thing. There'll be no tendering. There are some products where there will be tendering, but those are very few. Most of our products are very niche, and where we've got qualified part numbers, where there's no tendering required, so to speak, and the high margin products. That's why we are maintaining such a high bottom line as well. If you saw our numbers for the last year and H1 numbers that are going to be published in the RHP, our bottom lines are in excess of 25% PAT. That's all thanks to these products, where we don't have to go in for tendering and things like that. These are all niche products.
Okay, understood. I think nicely, explained by you. Most importantly, now tell me, sir, in terms of as I was telling Narendra ji, product development timeframes. Normally to develop a new product, Narendra ji, I think we missed out on that question. Normally, when you get a new interest from the customer to develop a new product, your designing team must be getting on the table, sitting with the client, and you all must be following a solution-driven approach. Tell me one thing, what's the normal speed to market? Like, from the time the customer tells you until the time the product is commercialized, how much time does it normally take for you to actually complete this process?
Okay, so let me answer this question by giving an example. The combat management system that we supplied to the Malaysian Navy, from design board to delivery, was within 12 months. And the system is so large, the hardware components of the system, which we manufactured ourselves, went in a 40-feet container, completely full. And the software contained 4.5 million lines of code. And this was developed by 60 engineers. Because of our domain expertise and our experience, we are able to put from design to delivery about large-scale systems around 12 months of time, which are designed from ab initio, right from the beginning.
Okay. So basically, a very integrated approach is followed from your side to ensure that everything right from the design drawing to the final product. And as Murtaji was saying that obviously after getting the client approval, your own product approval team, and then a neutral team approves it. Only then the product goes into commercial production. As I think. Just tell me one thing, Murtuji, one question which I think was related to your earlier answer was that since you said in some of our products we are monopoly players, we are the only company into the combat management systems. I just want to understand, is this a kind of a rolling business where you get a kind of a target from the customer that this is what you got to manufacture for the next, say, 2 months or 3 months? Or is it a typical order driven business? You get orders from clients and accordingly you plan your production schedule.
So there's nothing like that. It's like what the client asks us to do, we're able to manufacture for them. and every client might have a different mix in
Requirement.
that, and we're agnostic to any kind of equipment. We don't manufacture the equipment. We buy equipment from wherever they want us to buy. It could be a Russian thing, it could be American, it could be European. We basically integrate it and do it specific to what the client requires. That's our
Okay.
USP, that we're able to re-engineer it and recode it as per the requirements of the client, whatever he may
Okay.
require. So depending
Okay.
on what tweaking is required in the system, for example, if I'm giving a CMS to Malaysia for a particular ship, it might be different for what I'm doing in America or Canada or Africa, because their
Okay.
systems are different and the number of coding that needs to be done might vary. But the basic prototype is ready and there's small tweaking that's required in it.
Okay. Narendra ji, I think now from what Murtuza ji has said, that the basic prototype is ready, the coding has to be different. So I think a lot of customization happens for every customer. So please correct me if I'm
Yes.
wrong. I
Yeah.
want to understand what is the degree of pricing power for us. Like initially you sell the product. Is there a kind of a O&M part of the business also where you get every year, maybe for the next 10 years, 20 years, some O&M part of the business also keeps coming from existing customers.
Yes.
So if you could give
Yes.
us some idea on that.
See, what happens is, uh, once we have sold, this is the cycle that we undertake. Once we have sold a system, there is a guarantee period. There is a software guarantee period. There is a hardware guarantee period. The hardware guarantee period is lower than the software guarantee period. Once we cross the guarantee period, then there is something called as an annual maintenance contract and contract for spares. So basically, there are two types of spares. Certain spares are called on-board spares and certain spares are called base and depot spares. So these are ordered on us and regularly replenished by us.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
so there are various stages where maintenance revenues come and various stages where orders for spares come.
Okay. Understood.
Other
Fine.
than that,
So,
I'd like to give you an example as well. For the first ship, the CMS that we supplied, they're changing some of the hardware on that, some of the radars and sonars. So what happens is the software has to be tweaked accordingly, and there's going to be an upgrade in both the fixing of the new sonar and radars and the software. So we're going to charge them extra for it. The whole system changes then. There are certain additions that are made. So whenever they will change any equipment on that CMS, they will need us because the IP is with us. IP doesn't stay with the client. We own the IP. And
okay.
whatever tweaking is
But,
required, they'll always have to come back to us.
okay. I think I was going to come to the next question, Narendra ji. I think, financials, of course, Murtuza ji rightly said that the numbers have been pretty strong. But in qualitative aspects, one part is the R&D effort, the R&D development which you take, then the specialized customization activity which you do. I just wanted to know two, three qualitative points which can highlight the fact that we do a much better job than others in the industry. In fact, some products, as Murtuza ji said, we are probably the only company doing that. So, in your assessment, in qualitative terms, how well are we positioned to add more value to the customer? If you could just share two, three points for us.
Okay, first and foremost, you should be aware that we are a CMMI level 3 company. Okay, there are many CMMI level 3 companies. But in the defense domain, we are one among the 24 companies in India which are CMMI level 3. Okay, so what does CMMI apply to? CMMI applies to the quality of the product being delivered and the systems and processes that are being followed to develop the system itself. So having given that background, in order to tell you that there is nobody in India who has exported such a system to outside country. We are the first Indian company to have exported such a system to a country outside, which itself is a testimony to the quality of our product, where we competed with the biggest defense players in the world to win this order. So
Fine.
what
So
I'm
basically, this
trying
is
to
the
bring
most
out is,
important
until and
USP.
unless we didn't have a quality, we didn't have a quality, a country wouldn't have put faith on us to take the system. We demonstrated the quality much before we sold.
Okay. And normally, Narendra ji, just a added question to what you told us, like, what is the level of R&D development on an annual basis? Like, how many new products does the company develop every year? If you could give us some idea, because I believe R&D is the source of your, growth for future, expansion and future top line improvement. So, on an average, how does your R&D work? Like, do they work on a particular set of products which you design every year as an objective that these number of products have to be designed? You need to develop prototypes, then show it to customers, or basically it is based on need based requirements of customers?
Okay, there are all three types. There are all three verticals. Okay, one is the product that we have already developed. Okay, second is development of new products. Okay, and third is products that a customer would want us to develop. The first thing is we already have fielded a product, it's in the market. Now what we want is we have to enhance the product to be ahead of our competitors. So one part of R&D goes into that. Second part is we actually envisage and see what are the missing links in the whole thing, and then we are actually doing a research and developing those products.
Okay.
I'd like to add over here a point, furthering what Commander Narendra just said. We'll get on to some numbers. Typically, what we look at and what the board recommends and what management also has given us as a mandate is that we're allowed to spend about 7 to 8%, going up to 10% of our revenues on R&D, because we are a R&D driven company. As he said, there are certain requirements that the clients would give us. Other than that, there are a lot of niche things that we have our eyes on and we think would have a good market in future. So we try and focus on those products. For example, we developed a battlefield management system during COVID when we were sitting idle, when we didn't have any revenue at that time and everything was shut. We actually developed that, which is just the exact thing, the same thing that a CMS, what we made for the Navy, a battlefield management system was developed during the COVID period.
So fine, I think so. It's basically a combination of what the client wants as well as your own initiative.
Absolutely. And then also we see, and we have a certain budget also for it, because we're an innovation-driven company. We have to have a very high budget on R&D and coming up with newer products. That's going to be a bone of existence going forward.
Yeah.
Coming up with newer products. That's a USP.
I think right. Yeah. Now, Murtaza, if you could just share with us, the latest financials, because I don't have the latest set of financials with me. If you could just share what numbers we have produced, in terms of top line, in terms of profit. I think broadly you have mentioned the numbers have been robust, but just for the benefit of our viewers, you could just share a few numbers for us.
2023-24, we closed at a sale of 42 crores from last year period, which was just 8 crores. So it was a breakthrough year for us the last year. Because I'll tell you why we had that huge jump. We got orders from USA, and the thing that we replicated in Malaysia, we white labeled because it was sent to a NATO country. So we white labeled that and we got a lot of revenue because of that. And our net profit was 12 crores, profit after tax, which was very impressive. This year, already in the first half, H1, we've already beaten that last year's number. We've done 43 crores. And similar bottom line, about 11 and a half. And we hope to do more than double of that, as anyone who follows defense knows that the third and fourth quarters are the heaviest in defense. We're expecting to do about 135 this year.
Okay, understood. So thanks for the information, Murtaza. So, what is the amount of capital we are raising from the markets? If you could give us some idea, Murtaza. And typically, what is the money going to be used for? What is the broad objective of raising this money?
See, broadly, we are diluting whatever the minimum is, 25% plus 1.25% of the market maker. It's going to be a fresh issue. Our capital today is at 12.3 crores, and we're just diluting 25 from their fresh issue. So most of the proceeds are for working capital, as I told you. And some are for expansion. We're coming up with we're coming up with a robotics center and a performance center, various centers of research that we're going to come up in Dubai, one in Chennai, one in Bangalore, to showcase all our products. Since I told you we're a product-driven company. But most of it, about
And
60-65%, is towards working capital.
okay, understood. And Murtuzaji, just one related question. Was any pre-IPO done for this company? I mean, was any
There was
funding raised via pre-IPO also?
There was. That's the only reason I'm in a situation today where I can reach 135 crores. That was necessary. And fortunately, unfortunately, our by the time we got approval from NSC, it took a very, very long time. From the day we actually decided we're going to go public, it's taken us almost 1 year.
Okay.
So we did
So anyway,
2
I think
rounds of pre-IPO as well.
okay. Last question now is basically, as you rightly mentioned, during COVID, was one of the most challenging times for almost every
Right.
company, including us.
Absolutely.
Now, in our business, Narendraji, your experience with your expertise, if you could tell us, what is the main business risk in our business? Is it execution or is it the product quality, servicing? What is the main risk in our business? Because defense is a huge opportunity, and we are still small. The runway is very huge. But in our sense, in our business, what is the most important risk which we need to monitor regularly?
Okay, to tell you very frankly, for me, if it appears it's not our product or the product quality, it is ensuring that your receivables are received on time after product delivery. That is the
Absolutely.
biggest risk, is what I feel.
Because the quality is guaranteed. We have that domain expertise, and we do a lot of R&D. There's a proof of concept that always goes into the product. So chance of failure of the product is very, very low. And you heard, I've repeated it on various occasions within this interview, that there are 3 rounds of testing, and they're all mill grade products. So failure over there is very tough. The only challenge that we face and the risk is just the working capital cycles. If we could reduce those and somehow certain things can be brought down from levels of 180 to 100 days to 125, 130, we'll be very happy. That is our target going forward also. Now that we've got established products, we definitely want to bring our working capital cycle down.
I think nice to know, and I think thank you very much, Narendraji, as well as Murtuzaji. We could get a fair sense about what the company does, and our viewers will definitely benefit from this very small but good interaction from both of you. Please accept my best wishes to you, your entire management team, and best wishes for your forthcoming public issue also. Thank you very much.
Very much. It was
Thank
a
you very
pleasure.
much for having us over.